In 1970, mathematician John Conway developed something deceptively simple: the game of life. It wasn't a game in the traditional sense. There were no players, no objectives, no victory conditions. You set the starting parameters, and from there, the system evolved on its own, following a handful of predetermined rules. Tiny patterns of dots on a grid interacted in ways that created incredible complexity, with some patterns stabilizing, others vanishing, and some seemingly going on forever. A basic set of rules led to unpredictable outcomes. If such complexity could emerge from something so simple, what would happen if a simulation were scaled up? What if, instead of dots on a screen, the simulation contained galaxies, planets, and life itself? And the biggest question of all, what if everything experienced as reality was part of that simulation? At first, the idea seems absurd. Reality feels solid, tangible, unquestionably real. But dig deeper, and cracks begin to appear. Everything experienced, sight, sound, taste, touch, isn't a direct interaction with the world, but rather electrical signals processed by the brain. A person doesn't hear sound itself, but rather the brain's interpretation of vibrations in the air. Eyes don't see light, they absorb it, and the brain constructs an image. Every experience is filtered through the mind's interpretation of sensory input. The world as it is perceived exists only within the brain, raising a chilling possibility. If reality is nothing more than processed information, how can it be proven that it exists beyond perception? This problem becomes more unsettling when considering subjective reality. Two people can experience the same moment differently. One might say a room is too warm, while another finds it too cold. In an objective universe, the temperature should be a fixed number, independent of perception. But human experience doesn't work that way. Instead, reality bends to interpretation. If objective reality is so elusive, it begs the question: does an external reality even exist at all? Or is it generated based on what is being observed, just like a simulation? The idea that things exist independently of observation is something humans take for granted, but that assumption doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Babies, for example, lack object permanence, the understanding that objects continue to exist even when unseen. That's why a game of peekaboo can make an infant genuinely believe that a person disappears when their face is covered. It takes nearly 2 years for the human brain to develop the understanding that objects persist when out of sight. But even as adults, can it truly be proven that an object still exists when no one is observing it? Quantum mechanics raises disturbing implications. The double-slit experiment demonstrated that electrons behave like waves when unobserved, but collapse into particles when measured. This suggests that observation itself changes reality. A particle doesn't exist in a definite state until someone looks at it, much like how a video game only renders what's in view, rather than simulating an entire world at once. If reality behaves in the same way, if it only takes shape when observed, then it raises an alarming possibility. What if the universe is designed to save computational power? Simulating a universe at all times would require unimaginable processing capabilities. But what if only the necessary parts were rendered in high detail? Modern video games do exactly this. A game world isn't fully simulated at all times. Instead, only what the player looks at is loaded in high resolution, while the rest remains low detail or entirely absent. A simulated universe could operate on the same principle. Distant galaxies might not exist in full form until observed, reducing the need for unnecessary processing. This might explain why the universe appears empty. Why, despite billions of stars and planets, intelligent life seems absent. A simulation wouldn't need to generate countless civilizations, just enough detail to maintain the illusion of reality. But who or what could create such a simulation? The energy required would be astronomical, but theoretical structures like a matryoshka brain could make it possible. A matryoshka brain is a hypothetical megastructure designed to capture all the energy from a star, surrounding it with layers of computational devices to harness its full power. If an advanced civilization could build multiple matryoshka brains around different stars, it would have enough energy to simulate not just a universe, but countless universes. And if such a civilization ever existed, how could anyone be sure that their reality wasn't one of those simulations? Modern computing already allows scientists to simulate parts of the universe. The Illustris project, for instance, models cosmic evolution using the known laws of physics. It takes the basic conditions of the early universe and allows them to evolve within a computer, generating realistic galaxies, black holes, and star formations. As computing power advances, simulations like this will only grow more complex. If technology continues at its current trajectory, it may eventually become possible to create a simulation indistinguishable from reality. And if that point is reached, the probability that the observed universe is the original, rather than a simulation, becomes infinitesimally small. Even the structure of the universe hints at limitations consistent with a simulated system. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle states that it is impossible to know both the position and momentum of a particle with absolute certainty. In any simulation, there would always be a point where precision breaks down, where the system cannot perfectly track all variables. Black holes present another anomaly. Time slows in their presence, as if the computational power needed to process them is overwhelming, causing the system to lag. Even the speed of light could represent a hard-coded limit, a maximum speed not of physics, but of computation. These anomalies might also help explain the Fermi paradox, the question of why, in a universe filled with planets, intelligent life hasn't been detected. If the universe is a simulation, it might not need to populate every world with life, only enough to maintain a convincing illusion. The vast majority of planets could be procedurally generated, much like background details in a video game. The simulation hypothesis also aligns with the concept of the multiverse, the idea that infinite universes exist, each with different conditions. If simulations are possible, then there could be layers upon layers of simulated realities, with each advanced civilization creating new ones. A simulation could simulate another simulation, creating an endless chain of nested realities. And if that's the case, how could anyone ever know whether they were in the original universe or one of its many digital offspring? Near-death experiences offer another unsettling clue. Many who have come close to death report seeing their entire lives flash before their eyes or experiencing time in a way that feels nonlinear. Some describe stepping into another reality entirely, one where moments unfold simultaneously rather than sequentially. These descriptions sound eerily similar to what might happen if a consciousness were transferred between simulations, or if time within a simulation could be manipulated. Déjà vu, the feeling of having lived a moment before, could be a glitch, an error in the system causing a brief overlap between different versions of reality. If reality is a simulation, then free will may be an illusion. Every decision, every thought, could be pre-programmed or calculated in real time by an underlying system. Just as video game characters follow scripted behaviors, human consciousness might be operating within a predetermined framework, unaware of the boundaries that constrain it. Every choice might create a new branch of the simulation, an alternate reality where a different outcome plays out. Even without direct evidence, mathematical patterns in nature suggest an underlying code. From the spirals of galaxies to the proportions of DNA, the same structures appear again and again, as if governed by an invisible set of instructions. And if the universe follows mathematical rules too perfectly, too systematically, then it may not be a naturally occurring phenomenon. It may be programmed. If all possible simulated universes were placed in a container and one was picked at random, the odds of selecting the original, non-simulated universe would be minuscule. If advanced civilizations are capable of running simulations, then the overwhelming probability is that reality itself is one. Perhaps some future civilization, after discovering remnants of a long-dead species, decided to reconstruct their world in a simulation, running it over and over again to study history. unaware that the beings inside the simulation were experiencing it as their only reality. And if that's the case, then there's one final question. Who, or what, is running the program? Could the truth ever be uncovered? Would the simulation's creators ever reveal themselves? Or would they ensure that those inside the system never realize its true nature? What do you think? Could reality be an illusion? Leave a comment, like this video, and subscribe for more.